Okay, guys, we need to do some headlines. Lots going on. I just picked 3 stories out of all the stuff that's going on, but it's 3 that are pertinent. This is happening as we speak. Rocket warning sirens sound in Gaza area communities. You guys know anything about what's going on over there? They've actually, Hamas and the Palestinians have made a lot of threats. If you look at a map of Israel, let me show you here. Let's go into images. Nah, let's not do images. Let's go back here a little bit. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that right there. A little bigger. There we go. Much better. Okay, so Gaza, if you're looking at the map here, Gaza is all this back here, the area that's marked as Jordan. Gaza is right along in there. And a lot of your Palestinians are over there. And they're firing over into different areas of Israel because they're mad about all the stuff that was going on. But it's a very negative situation. It's a very bad situation. The problem is they're causing so many issues by what they're firing. They're pushing this peace deal to be forced upon them without them having any say-so on the thing, because they're going to do it just to stop them, just to shut them up. Remember over the summer of last year, 700 rockets in a massive attack, and they said this is just practice. So there's rockets, and you can see it's a very populated area where they're shooting these things too, and the Iron Dome is catching them. Their Iron Dome is catching them now, but if they had a multi-fronted attack with rockets, I don't know if they can get them all. The Times of Israel is live blogging Sunday's events as they happen. Further rocket warnings as 10 minutes ago. Sirens heard in communities near Gaza. Sirens are heard throughout the communities surrounding the Gaza Strip in what appears to be a large barrage of rocket fire. The military says it's looking into the matter. Now we have Italy cancels Venice Carnival in bid to halt the spread of the virus. We're going to talk about that virus a little bit today. That's 16 minutes ago. And we have rocket warning sirens 20 minutes ago. Gantz on Netanyahu's marijuana campaign vows he's selling illusions 27 minutes ago. Ban on Poland trips over virus fears. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on here. Whole lot of stuff going on. And this is going to unfold worse. They may launch even more. I think Watch Woman 65 did a story earlier on this too, but this is going to get way worse. Basically what we're waiting for is war. We already have Russia and Turkey fighting in Syria hardcore right now, which there was also an earthquake over there. Several dead in Turkey after earthquake hits Iran border area. This was 6 hours ago. This just happened. And they've been having a bunch of them. We did a story a couple days ago how they had one big earthquake and it looked like blood was just coming up out of the ground. They had another one and the river started turning that way. I don't think they've still figured out what the heck that stuff was. The magnitude 5.7 earthquake kills 9 people and leaves 37 others wounded, according to Turkey's health minister. At least 9 people have been killed and 37 others injured in Turkey's Van province following an earthquake early Sunday. It just happened. The country's health minister has said 9 of the injured are in serious condition. Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu said 3 of those killed were children, adding to some 1,066 buildings have collapsed. 1,066 buildings have collapsed. That was a shallow earthquake. The Disaster and Emergency Management Authority has begun rescue work. Search and rescue efforts are ongoing. It struck early on the Iran border region. The European Mediterranean Seismology Center said the quake had a depth of 5 kilometers, 3.1 miles. Turkish public broadcaster TRT World said it affected about 43 villages in Turkey, which has a history of powerful earthquakes. So yeah, Al Jazeera's Hashem Ahilbara reported from Hatay in South Turkey, or Hatay, said authorities are racing against time to reach those affected by the earthquake. Look, it just tore everything up. A whole lot of shaking going on. Authorities say they are concerned that many people might be trapped in the rubble. Affected a lot of mountain villages. Well, that's all volcanic uplift. So, other rescue teams have been dispatched to the area. So far, we had no reports of damage or fatalities in the area, which is not a populated area in Iran's west Azerbaijan province, an Iranian official said. It's very likely that there will be casualties and damages, Iran's state television reported. So Iran is even affected, but they haven't talked about it yet. An earthquake last month in eastern Turkey killed more than 40 people, while another in Iran had caused structural damage to homes without causing any fatalities. So they have major fault lines, crisscrossed by major fault lines. Iran and Turkey are amongst the most earthquake-prone countries in the world. So there's Turkey, and there's Van. I believe Syria is just below. This should be Syria right down here. We know there's a bunch of fighting going on over there right now too. Not a good situation. Okay, now we're going to go to breaking news. Israel Catholic Church group suspected of bringing coronavirus to Israel. Israel is blocking people from coming in, yet it's going everywhere. As for those peoples that warred against Jerusalem, Hashem will smite them with this plague. Zechariah 12:14. Israel's health ministry has confirmed on Sunday that 9 tourists that were diagnosed with coronavirus from South Korea. Remember, I have a buddy and his family that's over there right now. I've only been able to talk to him once. I don't know whether they shut the internet down or what they did. South Korea stayed in Israel for a visit between the dates of February 8th and the 15th before returning to their country. So it was a Catholic church from South Korea. So that means South Korea was already pretty lit up and they brought it there. Because South Korea right now is shut down quite a bit. In fact, there's a story on it. We'll go read it in a minute. The BBC in Seoul reported only 7 people have been affected with the pandemic. They took part in the trip organized by their Catholic church along with 77 other people. The health ministry asked that anyone who was in close contact with the members of the tour group place themselves in isolation in their own home for 14 days. They're thinking now it could actually be 28 days. Remember the movie 28 Days Later? They also urged them to consult a doctor in case they catch a fever greater than 38 degrees, cough, and experience other respiratory symptoms. The IDF made an announcement on Sunday that it is preparing to quarantine about 200 South Korean tourists at a military base in Har Gilo, just south of Jerusalem. I don't think my buddy's at that base. In response to the announcement, Gush Etzion, regional counselor head Shlomo Ne'eman, responded saying, just by chance we discovered the intention of the IDF to create a medical isolation facility in the heart of a civilian community. This is completely unacceptable. Even if there is a need for the treatment of the virus, the decision can't be behind the backs of local officials. The Kiryat in Tel Aviv is also a military facility, so why not set up a quarantine site there? We demand that those in charge rescind this decision immediately and initiate dialogue with our local authorities as is protocol. We are not anyone's backyard, and we will not be able to operate within our communities if our local council doesn't have the authority to operate, he added. South Korea has experienced a sudden spike in coronavirus cases, with 433 victims of the disease, which resulted in 2 deaths, reports the Straits Times. 231 of the latest cases have been connected to the Shincheon Church of Jesus in the south city of Daegu. The Korean Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Aid, the church, which has been accused of being a cult, forces their congregants to wait 6 months before they can pray in their services and forces their members to proselytize even if they are sick. Wait, what? Sounds like legalism. Wow. Okay. So this thing, it's going ham. It's just, coronavirus is just going ham on everything. It's going nuts. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Why suddenly are we having this problem? Because really SARS was worse than this. Why are we having such a problem with this one? I wonder. Bible prophecy. Is there another one? From atop the Temple Mount, Hamas calls on Muslims worldwide to assassinate Trump. Really? Well, when a man schemes against another and kills him treacherously, you shall take him from my very mitzbayach to be put to death. Hamas has exerted its presence on the Temple Mount, bearing an implied threat against the President of the United States. Though many Americans dismiss Hamas as a fringe element, well, they're not. Fringe element in the Middle East, an expert explains why the terrorist organization pledged to annihilate all the Jews has already firmly established itself in the U.S. at taxpayer expense. Yeah, that's a news story everybody forgot about. We have 2 enclaves here in Texas. I know where both of them are. As Muslim worshippers left Al-Aqsa Mosque on Friday, they were greeted by a group of masked, black-clad men wearing the distinctive green headbands identifying them as members of the Hamas terrorist organization. They were all over Iraq when I was over there in 2010. The Hamas members hung a poster in front of the Dome of the Rock showing a Hamas terrorist armed with a Kalashnikov rifle pointed at images of President Trump, Egyptian President Abdel El-Sisi, and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The faces of the leaders were masked by bright red X's. Dr. Mordecai Kedar, a senior lecturer in the Department of Arabic at Bar Ilan University, explained that the message was unmistakable. They have already threatened these leaders, and it is not just words. They are serious, and they are capable of carrying it out. Hamas is the Palestinian wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood, but they kill each other for no reason. Considered a terrorist organization by several countries, several attempts to have the organization classified as such in the U.S. have been blocked in Congress. The U.S. chapter of the Muslim Brotherhood was started by activists involved in the Muslim Student Association and is an umbrella movement that includes the North American Islamic Trust, the Islamic Society of North America, the American Muslim Council, the Muslim American Society, the International Institute of Islamic Thought, and the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAR. If you in your community go drive around, I actually used to belong to a group on Facebook, and we were watching this stuff back when Obama was in. And I would take my motorcycle and I would cruise around, and I would look for where their offices were. They're everywhere. They're in shopping malls, they're in shopping centers, they're in strip malls, and you never would know it until you look for it. And when you see it, you're like, wow, and they're everywhere. And these terrorist cells are active everywhere. You know, they'll go and they'll get 4 or 5 apartments in the same spot in an apartment complex. And you'll see them all together, and you'll hear the music, smell them cooking. Sleeper cells, they're everywhere. Now, not everybody. Not everybody is that. But a large percentage of them are. And most of the time, they don't want nothing to do with you. They won't talk to you. They won't look at you. They won't nothing. They go hop in their Honda and they take off. Or their Toyota and they take off. But they're planning stuff. I watched one time here in Seguin, little bitty town that I live in. We got like 20,000 people here. Go to the grocery store and had a cart full of bleach. I probably had 50 gallons of bleach. Why? What were they doing with all that bleach? Well, bleach is a component in explosives, because you can dehydrate bleach or evaporate it and get the salts out of it, and those you can use those salts. You can use the bleach itself mixed with certain other chemicals. Makes a heck of a bomb. You mix it right, it makes a heck of a bomb. But you see that stuff and it's like, wait a minute, why are they? And then they would go to co-ops. You don't ever see Muslim men going to co-ops out in the country. They'd go there and they'd buy big stacks of fertilizer, or 4 or 5 of them would go and get little bits of, 4 or 5 bags of fertilizer. What is it, 11, 27, 11, something like that is the mix. Because you take that, you soak it in bleach, soak it in gasoline, soak it in kerosene, and let it render, and then pack it into barrels, run 2 wires down in there with a little igniter, touch a 9-volt battery to it, boom! 55-gallon drum of that stuff will blow a building down. Does a lot of damage. So, and they're everywhere. They're all over the place. These organizations can bring the fight to Trump if they want, Dr. Kedar warned, and they are all 501c3 nonprofit. If a jihad comes to America, it will be at the taxpayer's expense. We let our enemy in by the front door, and we're now paying our enemy to kill us. And there's a bunch of us that have been fighting this stuff. And there's a bunch of us that had started organizations that were going out there that were trying to at least record what was happening and turn that into the FBI. But the powers that be had other ideas. So I realized that I was a tiny, tiny little tadpole in a giant ocean full of sharks. There was no way I was going to make any difference. I did what I could, and then I stopped. But it's all around you. Your community, no matter how small it is, you have people there. They like to buy farms out, big chunks of property. And they'll go in there, and it'll look pretty okay. Then you start seeing things change. But they store weapons there, store ammo there. They had a mosque here 2016? I think it was 2016. And they were like, oh, we'll help you guys. We'll do this, we'll do that, and everything's good. By accident, a bunch of SWAT team guys went to the wrong mosque. They kicked the door and they're running in there, they're checking things. And they're like, oh, yeah, we went to the wrong place. We're sorry, guys. Well, a couple of them had actually gone down back stairs, checked to make sure everything was clear. The whole basement was loaded with weapons and ammo. Oh, I guess you guys are part of this. So, you got to be careful. Eyes open, head on a swivel. That's the saying we use in the Army. And, when you see something that doesn't look right, say something. But yeah, it's everywhere, guys. And they're going to try it too. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they try to take him out. They try to take Trump out. I've actually kind of been watching for it, because a lot of people have been saying a lot of things move in that direction. It's kind of worrisome. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, where's the one? This one right here. Residents burned tires over talk of quarantining South Koreans in their settlement. So this is that we just read that in the other story. They were going to quarantine them in that settlement, but they're getting bent out of shape about that. Also, that's how they plant IEDs under the road. They burn a tire to soften the asphalt. Residents of the Har Gilo settlement on the southern outskirts of Jerusalem held a demonstration Sunday after reports emerged that health authorities planned to quarantine in their community some 200 South Korean nationals suspected of carrying the deadly coronavirus. Israel has scrambled to take containment measures after, over the weekend, South Korea reported that a number of its nationals who recently traveled to the Jewish state had tested positive for the disease. On Sunday, protesters blocked roads outside the settlement and burned tires. Some held posters reading, "Isolate the coronavirus, not the community." Here's the problem with that, though, and a lot of people have missed this, is that you can have the coronavirus, because actually there's so many different versions of it all over the place. You can have it and not get sick, but you're spreading it everywhere you're going and everybody you're coming in contact with. And that's how this is getting spread everywhere. There's people who were at airports when people were coming back, when China went off in Wuhan. You notice Wuhan fell out of the news. They came back that first 2 weeks before they shut everything down, and they went to all points in the world. They're carrying it. Some of them are carrying it and don't even know it, and they're spreading it all over their places. That's why you're seeing it pop up in random spots, because they're letting them out, and they're all taking off and going back to their places. They're not going to be able to stop this. Not just from a prophetic standpoint, they're not going to be able to stop this, because this has to happen. In a letter to the Defense Minister, Naftali Bennett, residents demanded they cancel this dangerous and unreasonable decision. The more the disease spreads by your actions, you will be responsible for endangering the residents of Gush Etzion and Jerusalem, they wrote, referring to a large block of West Bank settlements lying to the south of the capital. Earlier on Sunday, the Ynet News, Ynet site reported that defense officials had decided to send 200 South Koreans, mostly tourists, who are in the country, to the Hargilo Military Academy, located in the heart of the settlement. This facility is actually used by the military for training courses and educational seminars. The measure still requires the approval of senior government officials. Head of the Gush Etzion Regional Council, Shlomo Ne'eman, said in a statement that the council only found out by chance that the plan to house the South Koreans in Hargilo. There is no measure according to which this makes sense, he said. It can't be that the decision was made behind the backs of the local authorities. What I don't understand is why aren't they being held in their own area? I mean, it's like we flew a whole bunch of people here, and they put them in the military base in San Antonio, but there's people there that aren't even from here. Well, why aren't they keeping them on the ground? All those people that were on that boat, they should have set up tents and kept them right there on that dock. But what happened? They took them all out of the boat and everybody got sick. Funny that they weren't sick on the boat. They get off the boat and they get sick. The Kuria in Tel Aviv is also a military site, so why don't they have the quarantine facilities there? So we've read most of this story already in that other story. So they're pretty upset about that. But this is how this stuff's getting spread. Because all it takes, this stuff evidently is so easy to spread, all it takes is, say somebody with some trash or something, or blow their nose, wipe their hands off, and then toss it out the window, or some of the trash gets away and it blows out, and somebody goes and picks it up and throws it in the trash. It can be anything like that. And it now, supposedly, it's airborne. See, we're not getting enough details on how this stuff is spreading. That's another thing you got to pay attention to. They're not telling people what to do to help themselves. Wear gloves and wear a mask. And that's all they're saying. And there's more than that. This whole situation is orchestrated. Let's see. However, by Sunday afternoon, Channel 12 television news reported, without providing sources or details, that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had instructed that all South Koreans in Israel be immediately flown out of the country. Diplomatic relations between Jerusalem and Seoul have already become strained over the coronavirus scare. A South Korean airliner that landed at Ben Gurion Airport Saturday evening was sent back to Seoul with its passengers after the 12 Israelis on board were evacuated and quarantined. South Korea registered a strong protest with the Israeli government over the incident. Earlier, South Korea informed Israel that 18 members of a group who toured Israel in the West Bank for a week this month tested positive for the new virus. The tourists were diagnosed upon returning home. As a result, Israeli and Palestinian health authorities Saturday asked people who had recently been in close contact with a group of tourists to quarantine themselves. Some 200 Israeli students and teachers were instructed to enter isolation due to being in several tourist sites at the same time as a group. South Korea has seen a rapid surge in the number of coronavirus cases in recent days after a cluster of infections emerged from a religious sect in the southern city of Daegu last week. That was that Catholic church. The national toll of 556 cases is now the highest outside China, apart from the Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan. South Korea said Sunday it was raising its alert on the new coronavirus to the highest level. Starting Monday, Israel will ban all foreign nationals who have been to South Korea and Japan in the past 14 days from entering the country, the health minister said Sunday. The last 14 days isn't going to help you. You need to do it for the last 3 weeks, minimum. Interior Minister Aryeh Deri was set to sign an order to that effect later in the day. Israel is already denying entry to visitors from China, Hong Kong, Macau, Thailand, and Singapore, and is apparently the only country to have taken such drastic steps so far to contain the virus. The Foreign Ministry on Monday also extended a travel advisory for Israelis to South Korea and Japan. What a perfect scenario for somebody to come in saying, I got the cure for the problem. I'm going to make everybody better. Who would that be? You know, I had read at one point Kushner owns a pharmaceutical firm. Just saying. On Friday, Israel said a passenger who was quarantined on a cruise ship in Japan was diagnosed with the virus after he was flown home with a group of 11 Israelis, making it the first case to be reported inside Israel. The others are in quarantine. 3 other Israelis are being treated in Japan after contracting the virus on a cruise ship. The coronavirus, known officially as COVID-19, began in China in December. In December. When did we hear about it? Since then, it has killed over 2,400 people in that country, and tens of thousands have become infected. Those numbers are very conservative. Very. Okay. That's headlines, guys. And it's not getting better. It's going downhill. But here's what we know. This all directly ties to prophecy. We see the very beginnings, the bleed over of these prophecies that are ready to be fulfilled. They're bursting at the seams to come open and pour out onto the earth to be fulfilled. Evil is pushing on the sides, trying to get it to bust open. But what's holding it back? Us. The Holy Spirit is restraining this to keep this from happening. This, as fast as it's going, can you imagine if nothing was stopping it, how fast it would spread around the earth? You'd be looking at human decimation on a worldwide scale. But something's holding it back. Something's keeping it under control. What do you think is going to happen when that's taken out of the way? It's going to get bad. If you're not saved, you need to get saved right now. This has to be the topic of the day, every day. You need to get saved now. If you're not saved, get saved. Share all these videos with everyone you can. Tell them, hey, do me a favor, just sit down and watch this. And I won't bother you no more. But plant those seeds, because people need to know that this is exactly what the Bible said was going to happen. And the thing is, it's not the beginning of it. We've been seeing it for years. Time is up. There's no more time left. We must have to get people as prepared as we can. And it's not like getting rid of sin or anything like that. It's just get saved. Just believe. And get that out of the way. Everything else is inconsequential. Just get saved. Because if you can get saved, you're good, you're covered, and you're going to be taken out of here when that time comes. And guys, I got to be brutally honest. What I'm seeing, I mean, I'm trying to reserve myself because I don't want the same thing that happened last year to happen this year. But because a lot of people had problems with last year. A lot of them aren't on social media or YouTube anymore. Some committed suicide over that stuff. But I'm trying to restrain myself. But guys, I'm looking at everything that's going on. It's like, and I'm not the only one. It's like, guys, we got weeks. I'm not the only one. There's a bunch of other people that see the same thing. We got weeks. I mean, it's on God's time schedule, but wow, to see this unfold the way it is. And to see all the ties and all the links too, like the video I did earlier this morning. Whew. Okay, that's headlines, guys. Keep your eyes on the skies. Keep your feet in the truth. And let's see where we end up. See you in the next one.